Hi everybody. I'm not quite sure how well this will go today. This was a bit of an impromptu decision. Um, so I finished my experiment from yesterday. I didn't actually do much more than we did together, but what I did do was basically I tied the ends in a knot and took it off the pillow. So my pillow's got no lace making on it at the moment. Um, am I going to make another one? Well, I thought about making another one and making the second one. I think could have good general use, but I've changed my mind. As always, Liz the indecisive came to a bit of decision and found herself looking at what she was doing and the amount of effort that she was putting into it. And, well, if you look at the piece of lace on the screen in front of you, I can't wave my mouse over it, so you'll have to go by manual directions. Around the edges, you'll see that there's a big white zigzag line. Between the white zigzag line and the edge are groups of what lace makers call spiders. Now, I'm not exactly a spider fan. The things in the middle are also spiders. They're slightly different spiders, but they're also spiders. But the ones on the outside edge, if you look at, say, the bottom, and you look at the zigzag line so that it goes up, down, up, down, up, down, up, right? In that bottom quarter, right? The triangle that you can see is a triangle. In between the peaks of the zigzags, you can see, if you look carefully, three, well, splodges. They look a little bit more like mistakes, to be honest. And I was slightly annoyed at that because, well, with all the pins in, you can't really see how bad it's going to be till it's too late. And once it was too late and I'd done like half a side, I wasn't going to change it, so I kept it up. Now, I don't like the spiders. I think they look awful. And it's basically settled in my head, rightly or wrongly, that I am liable to end up with the same problem with a join. In that it'll be there, it'll be not bad, it'll be deliberate, but it'll look more like I got it wrong. And no matter how many sections I decide to do, so if I made like these squares and took away the hard edges so that I could sew them together a bit more. One moment. Get up, dog. Come on. There you go. Find a spot. Right. Back to program. No, Rory. I don't need your help. No, I certainly don't need Amy's help either. Oh, goodness sake. Go away. Come on. I've been doing this like 4 minutes. Seriously. You've ignored me all day. 4 minutes. I ask for some time. Right. Back to the story. So if I made the edges less hard and tried to make them joinable, I feel they would look more like mistake lines. A bit like if you've got a bad printer and it's got like a bit where it skips a line. You can see it from a mile away that there is a fault. You can still read it maybe, because maybe it's only kind of almost the equivalent of 1 pixel that's not working, but that there would be a fault line. So I'm going to go with the hard line and then actually make the hard line deliberate. So instead of just being the edge, remember I mentioned yesterday GIMP threads? Well, GIMP threads being thick threads, what I would do is run a GIMP thread down that edge or along the edge, and then basically join so that any munging goes between the 2 GIMP threads and is basically not that visible. And so your eyes are then, yes, you see that there are panels, but if I make the panels so I make strips, I can make the entire length of the window. So they would be more like blind strips, for want of a better word. So if you think of like, is it Venetian blinds, the one with the ones that you twist to let the sunlight in and close to... Anyway, more like those style blinds, but permanently sewn together in a long, well, in a wide, windowy shape. So I have measured, and the window panes are... Sorry to the rest of the world, I will mix centimetres and inches a lot over the next bit of this conversation. Rory, you got off. Please don't get back on. Oh, here we go. He does this a lot. The window pane is 43 centimetres by 97 inches. I don't know whether there are ads running or not. So I'm going to assume there are no ads. If there are ads, please tell me. It says there are ads, hence my thing's popped up saying 3 minutes of ads, but I don't know whether there are ads. So hard. Anyway, let's get back. So if it's 43 centimetres wide, 97 down, that's roughly 17 inches wide. 17 or 18, I think it's 17 inches wide and about 38 inches down. So now I have to decide how to break it up. Now, could I break it in half? Yes, but then there'd be a big line down the middle. That kind of sounds a bit bad. Maybe 3. Well, 3's quite wide. You could do quite a good bit of pattern and options and funny things down each panel. But I'm not sure, but it's a lot of bobbins. To give you an idea, the square in front of you, because you work it in quarters, so you start, say, well actually, technically you can, because you start on the back, and you work back facing up, so if you flipped this over, you see there's a tiny hole top right hand corner. That was my first spider, where I didn't do it the same as all the others. So the top right hand corner is where I started, and I made that right hand triangle. That's 43 pairs of bobbins. That's 86 bobbins. That squares 5.5 inches. So to make half of the width of that is 86 bobbins. So that's 2.75 inches. So to multiply it up, if you wanted, say, 8 inches, which gives you 5 panels, give or take a little bit. Yeah, it's a lot of bobbins. And I struggled with the bobbins for this square. So maybe I make the panels smaller. Maybe I make them, maybe I have more. Maybe I make 8. So then they're only, say, 4 inches wide. Well, that's twice as many bobbins as that, but maybe it can be done. Maybe I make it slightly wider apart so it's not quite as dense as this. Maybe I make it, but I want to make it with fairly thin thread, and I don't want it to be too flimsy. So I don't know whether you've just come back from the ads. So to recap, if there were ads, the window is 43 centimetres by 97 centimetres in size. That's roughly 17 or 18 inches by 38. And I'm trying to work out how many panels to divide it by. And the main decision is not bobbins per se. It is, well, it's not the width of it. Well, it is the width of it because I want it to look nice. Because, I could do 1-inch strips. But, well, you can't do a lot with a 1-inch strip. Unless you use really small thread. And I don't love myself quite that much. At the same time, if I make it too wide, that's an awful lot of bobbins. I will give myself migraines and stress in trying to control them. So I find myself at a quandary. What do I do? Do I sit there and divide it up? So I have been playing around. Oops, I want to use my magic program. So I have my lace program, and let's see, I want to set the ruler to have, bear with me 1 second, let's go with that. Okay, so this is approximately the size I might have my grid. So thinking back to the items I've been making, if you think of my experiments, in fact, let's cover my experiments the most. Here are the experiments that I've made today. By the way, I have a different camera today, so I can zoom in and out a bit more. So these are the ones I've made previously. Now, they were on a smaller grid. This was a bigger grid. It was whatever came on the bookmark that I bought. Well, it came free, actually. I didn't buy this one. But I got free bookmark. Brown strip. And they seem to be about 4mm, whereas these ones were all done on a 2.5mm. So there is quite a considerable size differences. And part of the way you can tell is that if you consider that where each bit of daily thread crosses was a pin stab, and if you recall yesterday, obviously there were 3 pin stabs with holes with a hole in the middle, so it was 3 each side, hole in the middle, and then down the bottom. So it means that it's a lot more flimsy, but I do like how it's turned out. Now, I'm not convinced how well it would work under its own weight, because it wouldn't have as much rigour between it and the fabric that it makes. Because the others are a bit more dense, the threads twist together and form a firmer bond and hold the shape potentially better. Flat, this one is glorious. I mean, look how flat and neat and tidy it looks. All the others have gone a bit scruffy and a bit wonky, and so maybe I can use a bigger grid, which means less bobbin per inch. This helps my sanity. Now again, thinking of, I don't know, the pins as pixels, so each potential hole on my lace software thing, so if I go back to my lace software, each of these dots potentially, I know they're very faint, let me make some slightly bolder dots for you to look at. So each of these dots is a potential pinhole. And you can do various things to put shapes on them, and if I in fact open up a square, hang on, square one. This is basically the square I originally made. So if you look, there's lots of pinholes, and these were the spider things that didn't really work. Here were the holes, the honeycomb holes that we made yesterday, but that they had a gap between them, which I didn't like so much, and then bigger spiders in the middle. So if you look at how that looks and imagine that boiled down to 5.5 inches. And that's, as I say, 86 bobbins. If you made this bigger, now I could make it bigger just by making the gap between the diagonals bigger. Obviously it would take up more room. And it would affect how it looks quite a bit. But I don't know if I really want these diagonal lines. Because if you look back to, if I go back to... Where is it? I've gone past the window I wanted. Of course I did. If I go back to this picture, it would make these white zigzags a lot less dense. It would make these holes bigger, it would make the gaps between them bigger, it would make the gaps in the ground bigger, and it would be more flimsy. Now, this square, in real life, is reasonably stiff. It's not like, hold it at the corner and you could, put a slice of cake on it stiff. But it's not really flimsy. Whereas, if I go back to my lace pillow, if I pick up these, if you can see, it doesn't exactly droop when I pick it up. They might twist a bit, whereas this one is more droopy. It's a bit more floppy. It's still... They're surprisingly stiff considering all it is a bit of twisted thread. So today I thought I would sit here and discuss with you a little on how we're going to break it up, the lace pillows that I've got, and the conundrum that I face. So I have a pile now of lace pillows. The one that you can see on camera is, as I explained yesterday, the one that I'm wobbling a bit, is a styrofoam cooler lid with a bit of felt on top of it and some cloth to make it a little bit more presentable. By the way, this cloth attracts dog hair and random spots of light coloured things like nothing else on this earth. I don't know how it does it. It looks hideous. It looks like a minefield, and it's just terrible. Anyway, thinking of how I'm going to divide up my window pane. 5 lots of 8 seems a bit big. It's quite daunting. If you think, obviously, that then would mean that that's kind of the best part of 100 and something bobbins, pairs of bobbins, more accurately. And I really don't know if my sanity would survive that too much. So I find myself sitting here going, I need to do a fairly thin strip, but maybe alternate them so that, or even graduate them so that each one's so that they kind of, I don't know, they're denser at the outside, get less dense to the middle, and then get denser again, so that they form, the curtain has, even though I intend for it to be flat and not wavy like a lot of curtains, I want it to be kind of like a flat sheet, the density forms like a visual wave in front of you. And that by breaking it into strips, obviously I can make different panels and not get bored of making the same panel over and over again. And because I would make a really long strip, I can do something at the top of the strip, something in the middle of the strip. I can make a pattern that is not just repetitions the whole way down. That it is, it could be repetitions the whole way down. There's nothing wrong with that. But I could also do something that is different the whole way down. Now, there is one thing that really bugs me about this lace making software, and I shall attempt to demonstrate. So, in the software, as you can see, I have not used this top row. In fact, there's 2 rows of dots here. If I get my little dotty tool, if I look at the 10 centimetre mark, I can put a dot right on the edge. The problem with that is that it's hard to work with because it's on the edge. You can't work with the pattern in a more practical area. So while I can say work from left to right and make it say 5 centimetres, it's actually easier to start at 1 centimetre and work to 6 centimetres, so that there's a bit of a gap, so that if you want to put some annotations on it, or you suddenly decide that it's not quite wide enough, you can just move it, or you can just add a little bit to the edge. When it comes to printing it, it takes the actively used area and works with that. So it's not even like you've got to butt it all to the left, otherwise it prints funny. Now, printing it out, obviously, that could be some fun and games. If I was going to try and print out a 1 metre piece of paper, clearly that's not going to work. So I would print out 3 or 4 sheets of A4 and join them together. But as I said, I've kind of got a conundrum, which is that my lace pillow, I've got a number of lace pillows. I've got flat ones, like the one you saw yesterday, which is just a single piece of stuff, and is not movable. So the only thing you could do would be, if you wanted to move work up on it, you have to literally pick it up and work on it. You can't just keep going. You have to stop. You have to basically lift a crap ton of pens. You then have to slide your work up and reseat your crap ton of pens. This is not a glorious idea. So then you look at what are roller pillows. Now, roller pillows are great. They have, quite unsurprisingly, a roller on them, usually somewhere in the middle to the top. Top is preferable in my opinion, because, well, why would you want it behind? I'm sure there are good reasons for behind, but my head hasn't found them yet. So I have two roller pillows. One is a thing of beauty. It is 70 centimetres wide. The roller on it is 13 inches wide, that's usable, because obviously you've got the edges on it. And is the height of perfection, frankly. But there is one problem. It's really unwieldy to put anywhere, and I can't put it on the table that I had my pillow on yesterday, and I've got it on today, because the pillow stand that I've got is an H shape, and it's got little legs to lift the roller, because otherwise the roller's touching things and doesn't roll. And so it kind of doesn't fit on the pillow stand. Now, that might be okay, because technically I do have another pillow stand. It's currently not in my house, because I've never seen it. I bought it, but I've never seen it because of eBay shenanigans. Be careful who you buy from on eBay. I bought from a charity, and it was obviously some poor old dear's, long prized possessions. And in it was this adjustable lace making stand, and I'd been using a little rolly table that I hate. It's too high. It was too high for the thing I intended, but it was the best I had at the time, and I've still got it, but it's too high. By the time you put the lace pillow on it, it's kind of at your chin level, and it's really quite awkward. So the lace pillow thing that I have ordered is only like 24 inches tall. And so I ordered it because it really wasn't that expensive. It was like £30, and it was like £5 for delivery. So I paid up, all really excited when I won. It was looking good. Yeah, about a week later, we can't get anyone to take it. Can you come and get it? I'm sorry, what? I paid you for delivery. You're a business, because they are a business. And their answer was they couldn't get some of the easiest to work with, mainly because they're desperate, but easy to work with delivery companies to take it because it was, quote, too big. It's the size of a small bedside table. It kind of comes apart. How big can it be? Anyway, I bought it. I managed to persuade a co-worker who lives like 10 minutes around the corner to go and get it for me. It's currently in their house, in their spare room, taking up space, and for which I apologise to them should they ever hear this. But I very quickly, up on eBay, came a different one. It was a very different style, very different element. Frankly, a much cheaper and more humble looking stand, in that it's kind of the sort of thing that you might have made when you were 10 in wood shop at school. It's, as I said, it's got a H-shaped bit at the top. It's got a cross at the bottom for the legs. It's got 2 blocks of wood that have been kind of fastened to the legs with a hole in so that you can attach them. And then the same's kind of true at the top, in that there's a semicircular piece so you can angle the pillow. So you may recall yesterday I took it from an angle to flat. You can raise and lower the height a bit, but I didn't want to do that on stream because it's a bit fiddly and I didn't want to do it. So I've lowered that now so it's flatter and lower. And it's basically held together with 3 wooden pegs. One holds the top on, one holds the angle, and one holds the feet on. And you plonk the pillow on top. And there are 2 little bits of metal that are a bit like hinges but without the hinge, so just metal plates that stop the pillow from coming forward too far so that it doesn't fall off. Now, the problem with the roller pillows is they're round. This is square. Now, then comes to the magic world of block pillows. Block pillows, not too surprisingly, have blocks in them. So, traditionally, they are square stroke rectangular. Not usually grossly rectangular, but rectangular. And you have 3, maybe more, blocks that you can slide up and down the middle. Now, see, here's where my brain cells fart again. In that, while if the piece of work you're working on fits on one's block that is there, this sounds like a glorious plan because, you know, you can move it so that the bit you're working on is, say, nearer the top so that you've got room for your bobbins at the bottom. It's not like they're falling off the bottom. But if you cross a boundary between blocks, where do the pins go? Because you can bet my backside, and Murphy's Law will mean that the pin you put in wants to go in the gap, right? It's just gonna happen. And so my brain doesn't like the idea of block pillows, but block pillows fit nicely on my stand. So I'm in a and then of course there is the final offering, and I mentioned him yesterday, which is known as a bolster pillow. Now, a bolster pillow is a tube. It is like a pool noodle in that it is rectangular in surface to look down on it area, but it is absolutely spherical, so it is roly-roll. It's usually quite chunky, so the one I've got is 70 something centimetres round, and it's, I think, 35 centimetres side to side, so it's quite girthy, frankly, to the point that my piece of cloth that I wanted to put on it, because the colour that it came in was a little bit busy and made my mind hurt, which is why, by the way, lace people often use dark coloured cloths, is to keep your brain calm rather than seeing tons of active things and it makes your mind melt a bit. But my bolster pillow has a little kind of woodeny standy thing, only it's really tall. Because, of course, well, if it's got a circumference of the best part of 70 centimetres, it's got quite a big diameter on it. And I didn't measure it, but I'm going to say it's a good 5-6 inches, right? Maybe a bit somewhere in that direction. Well, put it on the stand then that lifts it another 3 inches. Well, suddenly it's 11 inches off the table. Well, other than raising my light up and balancing it kind of really wibbly wobbly near the ceiling so that the camera is not literally grinding on the lace pillow, that could be a challenge. Now, it would be quite good because obviously it means that I can roll the piece of paper, which I would laminate, roll the piece of paper with the pattern on it, and the lace would kind of go off to the side. Now, obviously, the pattern would annoy me for quite a bit to start with because, well, it would be poking me. There would be a lot of it, and I'd have to try and find a way to poke it. And you can kind of wrap it round the pillow to a large extent. You really, really can. But obviously I would need to be able to undo the portion as it came off the top, so that as the bottom came round I could pin it on and hold it still. But it would be a doable thing. And it would be quite nice because, as I say, I actually quite like that pillow. It's quite a good one. It's quite good for sticking between me and my computer table. I'm sitting in front of my computer table right now. Because my computer table is a wheelie table as well. I've got many tables. I should paint a picture. I would show you it, but this is not in a viewable state. I made a co-worker promise to nag me over the weekend. It's 5:30 on a Saturday afternoon. I've not heard a peep. Mind you, they also did say they might sleep, so... but I did ask someone to nag me because I need to tidy this room up a bit. It's a little out of hand at the moment. I'm not blessed with being tidy, that's all I need to say. And even by my standards, it's kind of got out of hand. So I need... There is nothing gross, there is no kind of piles of food, there is, it's nothing like that. But there are Amazon boxes, Amazon bags, Amazon envelopes, bits of paper, empty boxes of things, that I just need to get on with it, and it makes my mind hurt. In fact, actually really, I'd almost go as far as to say that I would consider my brain finds it really repulsive to tidy. It gets really stressed, it gets really upset, and I just struggle. It makes me miserable, and I suffer from depression at the best of times, so I really don't need the help of tidying up. In fact, if I could kind of do the Harry Potter and kind of go Scourgio, and for it all to be blissfully tidy and everything to rush back into a decent place in the house, and then of course I don't need to know where it is because I can go Axio and have it appear in my hand, my life would be bliss. So, in the early stages when witchcraft was believed to be a thing, you know what? I kind of wouldn't mind. Can we make it a bit Harry Pottery, but Anyway, so I'm at a conundrum now of where to do the work, what I should make, and how I should go about it. So, the first question we have to ask ourselves is, do we want... Let's kill this off. Do we want a flat top, or do we want a pointy top? Now, I would say pointy tops are easy to make with this, but as I can demonstrate really easily. So if I pick this dot here, and I want to move, and I want to make a triangle, so if I pick a dot, and I make a triangle, okay, so it's moving the bottom. But if you look, let's actually mark the dot. Let's be sensible. Let's mark the dot that I'm going to start at. And we'll go to the other side, and we'll go we'll pick the diagonal, so that one, and just in case we end up going downwards, that's the bottom. So I want to make a triangle between any of those 4 points, right? So if I pick triangle, and I start at a spot, and I go there, and I go up, well, now the bottom's nowhere near the bottom, and if I make the top, well, it's not even an equilateral triangle. It's kind of squirmy. So if I make it, that's as close as I'm going to get. So if I then group select, no, I don't want to group select everything. Don't know whether ads are running. Maybe they are. I apologise if the ads are running. If you have Turbo, of course, you'll still be able to hear me, but we may or may not be in ads at this point. So let's pretend that we're still doing this for a minute. So if I try and group this, and then see if I see, I kind of want the triangle. It's really hard to select the triangle. Remember I mentioned yesterday how awkward this software was. There's the triangle. I don't want those bits. It's just really impossible to select the triangle. The only thing you can do is select the points and move them to another layer. Yes, I do. And then go back to the original layer, back to my drawing tools. Actually, I forgot one important factor. Back to my layer 20. No, it was the wrong one. 20, lock it. Now go back, select it. It's not selecting anything. Well done, computer. Group select. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer, of course. I didn't change. Group 1, drawing tools, group select. Right, there we go. So now it'll select only, well, it would, but when I clicked it, it didn't move. Got to click on the right bit. So I can move and resize the triangle, but fucking, let's get rid of you for a minute. Because you're a confusing life. So if I think, is it in the middle? No, it's not. I don't know where it's going to go. So if I select the only thing and try and move it, if I move it down so that it kind of lines up a bit more with that, it doesn't line up with the edges quite so much, but I can't move that side in, only seem to move this side. So I've mishandling it. So if I move that there and then move it across, but now I want to move it up some, so maybe up some, down some. You can see, making a triangle with this thing, you end up drawing them by hand. So let's delete that for a minute. So pointy, let me see if I can do some pointy. So it's going to be quicker to clickety. So if I start with a point like this, oops, don't want it in the middle of a hole, pointy, and I can't believe this is the easiest way to do this. I hate that triangle tool, the shape tool, the rectangles and the other, and rectangles alright, but the triangles just painful. So here's the point. We could make a point. Now this is what, 24.5 to so it's about 5 centimeters. So it's about 5 centimeters. Yeah, it's about 5 centimeters wide. Now that's not really a lot. We wanted to go for 8, so we need, we'd need to go quite a few more this way. So we'd have to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that takes us from 31 to 22. That's 9. So, of course, that's too much, isn't it? Freaking typical. So, knocker. So, potentially, we could do a diamond at the top. But then, how am I going to join it to things? So, realistically, it does need to be square. Which isn't a bad thing. We can still make a diamond shape within it. And that is one, of course, part of the desirable parts of things like the design. So if I go back to my drawing tool and I make a shape, as I say, most of these shapes are pretty awful, but if I take a rectangle and I go from 1 centimetre to say 9.5, because that's where the next dot is, even though it's proving to be awkward. There we go. So if I make that, that's going to be the outline we're going to work to. I can fill it with dots. So in fact, if I fill it with dots, same shape, fill it with dots. But then I can take out some dots. So it picks slightly awkward because it's not. I almost need it to be dots down this side because it's not. In fact, we will do that. We will. You're going to mark those dots for me. You know, are you? There you go. So the reason I did that is that then there's kind of an even number. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Hurrah! There's an odd number in my picture. Perfect. So if I take the middle one, so that's going to be number 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Doesn't look in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What? No, it's the 8th one. That's why, you stupid woman. Right. So the 8th one. If I start here, and let's put, I don't know, these in, because these are nice. I like these. These are the little kind of squarey doodads. Right. We make a squarey doodad of those. Right. I can make a pointy shape in the middle. So these would be, if I go back to, I don't think I did any on that one. No, I didn't. That's not going to help, actually. I was going to say, if I go back to the picture, but then I haven't got them in the picture. So these make little squares with kind of like circles in them. Or circles in kind of squared off bits. But I can make a diamond shape, so I can still make this bit cloth stitch or whatever, and so it's solid and strong, and then I can start a design in a point but have a rectangular piece of cloth to work with. So I could then do those, and then maybe because I liked these, I could put some of them in, and we'd have to take out the dots in the middle. Oops, I don't want these dots in the middle because, well, I won't be working dots in the middle. So I could have, you know, different things going down. I could have completely different shapes. I can, as you may have seen in here, there's all sorts of shapes pre-made in here and various different sizes and things, and yeah, don't even go there. Some of them are nice, some of them are less nice, in my humble opinion. No. All I need to say to you is no. No, I suck at these. That, and I'm also not a flower person. And although maybe a couple wouldn't have looked so bad, you know, for example, if I take these and I did... It's not going to be in the middle, is it? It's going to be a pain in the butt. Let's put it there, because that way it's kind of where it should be. So you could do... Well, they're not level. For God's sake, woman. And this is the other thing. Of course, it's now eaten it. So I've got to go back and reselect it, because it's eaten it. No, I heard movements in the world. It's not important, dog. Leave it alone. So that goes there. There you go. Right. So I could have little flowery things And in fact, I could have an empty grid with little flowery things. I really suck at those flowery things. I found it very, very difficult. Now, obviously, maybe I just need to practice, and maybe that's a thing. And obviously, looking at this, sometimes it's hard to tell. So, for example, I would potentially want what's known as my GIMP thread, and I would have that come down and go round some of these, and then it would come down to this one, and then I'd have it go around this. It doesn't show so well, obviously, because it's thin and yellow, but principles, right? I would have my GIMP thread there, and that would... Now, there's a straight one. What does that... How does this one... Well, it looks exactly the same. I thought it might. So I can mark them out and stand them out a bit and make them look slightly more defined. I could do some more cloth stitch, and this is how you pretend you're doing cloth stitch. But I could do kind of cloth stitch and make strong bits there, and have solidy bits. And I need to start thinking about, because obviously I want the top to be fairly strong, because that's where it's going to take the weight of the curtain, and maybe I need some more solidy bits to give the curtain to reduce the opportunity of it sagging and stretching in a weird way. And I'm not quite sure how best to go about that. It is a difficult decision to make. I find myself in a quandary on that one. But the whole planning stage is a bit of fun, and then this is where some experiments come in. But unfortunately, while I'm enjoying, I enjoy a bit of an experiment. I kind of want to get on with this. I want to start making it and seeing a progress towards my goal. And for all the knitters and crocheters out there that, get every pattern says make a swatch, and nearly every knitter and crocheter resents making a swatch, right? It's because you sit there making usually a 4-inch square piece of fabric for no purpose other than to make the 4-inch square piece of fabric to ensure that it is a 4-inch piece of fabric. Now, one of the advantages of lace making is that, well, the pinholes determine how big it is. Simple as that. The pinholes decide how big it is. The thread decides how well it's going to hold its shape. Now, do I want to use thicker thread? The problem is that I don't want the curtain to be too chunky. I want it to be light looking. I want it to be fairly sheer in terms of visibility. I don't want it to be blocking out all the light, although, to be honest, I usually had the curtains shut, but that's so not the point. I wanted to be able to admire it as and when I chose. Now, it could be, and this may still be a thing, I have 3 windows in the room that I'm in. Remember I explained that we in the UK tend to have panel windows. So I've got, if you think of the window I showed you yesterday, which was a single window, I've got effectively 3 joined together here. The middle one doesn't open. Now, it could be quite nice if I make a good piece to actually put it in the middle in here. Because I don't have net curtains in here. I don't really have anyone who's going to wander past it and look, to be honest. Because to get to this window, you have to walk past the front door, basically across the entire front of the house. There is no pavement walking in front of my house, and so no one walks really in front of my house. So it's not really an issue. But if people could see it, or that there was something there, and see to come and investigate it, that could be a thing. There is a path, they can walk across the front of my house. The path goes all the way across my house so that the utility people can go to their little cupboards in the corner. But it could be a good thing, because then it would mottle the sunlight coming in the room. I would get to enjoy it on a daily basis. So even if I completely fluff up the one for upstairs, there's always the chance of making another for downstairs. Like I mentioned yesterday, there are a lot of types of lace, and they're all made kind of doing the same thing, but differently. So the one that we've been looking at is in a style called torsion, and it has a ground stitch. So it's almost like, when in doubt and you don't know what else to do to it, default to that. So if you think of my pattern on the screen, like I've done, I've got a load of dots in it. This is now ground stitch. I am then replacing ground stitch with patches of other things. Now, other laces that have caught my eye there's two, and they're basically the same thing. One is called Milanese, the other is Russian tape. Now, what you really do is you make a very thin strip of cloth stitch, but you wander around the pattern, and then at varying intervals send out like little spider legs to meet up with the other spider legs and form joins, so that instead of being a wiggly tape that has no strength, no capacity, no hope, shall we call it, this stuff holds together. See if I can find you a picture. That's not really. Is that really? Let me see. Yuck! Oh, this is not a me thing. Right, I wouldn't be seen dead wearing this. I apologise to its maker, because it is a work of art, but I don't wear lace. So let me sort this out. That. Hide that. Show you that. Let me. I've got to do some poking, because I hadn't kind of planned this one very well in advance. So this is very poor on my behalf, and I apologise intently. But let me show you this. So here you can see there's like this waistcoat thing, and round the edges you can see that there's like a scalloped edge, and then inside it is flowers and some snowflake tallies, but lots of little circles. Don't worry about the little circly bits. But as you can see, between each of these flowers round the edge is that there's like a mesh of joiny bits that hold it together, which allow it to be a waistcoat. And so something similar on a lace curtain would really be quite nice. Congratulations, dog. So there are lots of things. I mean, for example, this would be a bit more my style, so with a bit more kind of diagonals. But again, this would be nice. This would be. Can you find patterns for it? Can you, heck? Milanese lace is very similar. It has some very similar. It kind of. So, for example, this piece looks fairly similar to what we've been talking about. It's got kind of like this groundwork, and then a pattern in the middle. To me, I mean, this is very net curtain looking, right? To me, this is a very, very, very net curtain looking piece of work. And arguably something, but what if you notice, what they do is they start in a point, and it's a continuous run of a circle. Now, they make motifs out of it, and then obviously have the joiny bits together. But the joiny bits give it the strength, and that would work, but I can't find anything that actually defines that. So if we look at our lace making software, we do have the ability to draw. So I'm not going to so I can so if I do this, and it kind of smooths out, but not necessarily in a most predictable way. So if I draw, let's say I'm going to draw a bit like they had a leaf shape. So it comes up, and then it comes out and around. I am no artist, do not come for me. And then out and around a bit more, and then up, maybe a bit of a pointier one, back to the middle, trying to make them fairly symmetrical. Oh, I'm going to fail terribly, but bite me. So this one comes up, and got a bit of a wonky angle. I know it's not symmetrical in any shape or form, is it? And then back down. So what does it make up? You see, it's not kind of what I meant, but it doesn't make two of them, so there's no tape. There's no. I would then need to make a second shape. So let's do a really simple one this time, kind of a trefoil thing. So we come up, we go out, around, up, out, round, up, out, round and down, and then we need to go out a bit to try and make an outside edge for it. Bear with my thoughts here, right? Bear with my thoughts. So we make kind of a outside edge for it. Yeah, really helpful dog. I love having dogs sometimes. Much if they're not perfect. It's only an attempt. Right, so it can kind of do it. And then obviously you could fill it in the middle. You'd try and make it pinpoints close to the edge so that you could tie them all together and maybe fill it with something. And work out some method of filling the middle with something. So if I look back, it had kind of a ground stitch on it, so maybe you'd fill all the inside of the trefoil with dots while you use, say, 5 or 6 bobbins to go all the way around the edge of this, and then fill with, make it in a grounds, and it could work. It really could. But as you've already noticed, I can't draw. I can't draw for love nor money. And especially not in this. It's not practical enough. I can't even do reliable geometric shapes with the shape tool and have them appear where I want them to. So in theory, it would be nice to take something like this and draw loads of wiggly lines all over it, because I quite like the leaf things, to be honest. The leaves look quite good. Have kind of leafy looking things that you fill in and mesh together, because I can select this and duplicate it. So if I if I grab this, I can paste another one and paste it in now. I'm going to paste it. If I paste it down here. Right, so I could paste, I can do that. And then you would have maybe different things on the inside to on the outside. So you'd fill it with maybe with a slightly denser stitch on the inside. Or, I don't know, those that, some of my favourite things. Or try and fill it with the massive holes. Or put massive holes around it. So there is an awful lot you can do. But I just wish I felt I had more control over some of these shapes. Because it's not like, for example, when you do the smooth curve, it just smooths off where you move your mouse pointer. If it followed that, it wouldn't be so bad, because I've got a tablet and a pen and I could draw on it badly, but I could draw a more accurate kind of curve and where I wanted it to go, and then draw a second line that was a bit more similar, and it would be a bit more feasible. But because this doesn't, it's good with these. You get you can do these and you can have that, and that'll be where your bobbin goes. That's great. Those work. That works really, really well. Love that. The Trail Artiste basically is the same thing. I'll make a triangle, and all it does is it makes it much more like the ground stitch kind of, the cloth stitch zigzags most lace makers are familiar with, but it makes them all of individual lines, so you can't just pick a load of dots and move them. It doesn't work. I mean, as an example, if I do that again, so if I make a smaller one, to save time. So there on my ground stitch. It does that as well, which is you have to right click for it to forget. So if I pick a dot, it's only one end. So yes, I can move that one end to say over there. I also then have to move this one over there, and you can do two, but you can't pick up both dots. You have to do each individual dot, and so if you have, like my square did, so if we go back to my square, where's my original square? Go back to my square. You think of all these zigzags. If I wanted to move these zigzags, you also can't just select the zigzag. So you can try and freehand it, and you try and go around the edge, for example. And I'm not that inaccurate at doing it, but as you may notice, it goes a bit zigzaggy because it's trying to snap to grid. So I do that, but you now can't unselect using control like you'd expect to, or shift just adds to it. Oh, doesn't do anything. Control Alt, nothing unselects them. So you've got to be so careful when you do your, and of course it missed a bit, and there's a bit missing, look, it moved it, but it becomes really hard to work with it. So then you have to put everything on different layers so you can just select that bit. But for example, if I moved this out like by one place and needed to adjust this end, it is a lot of hard work, and so I really struggle to make the most of this software. It's quite expensive, and as I said yesterday, it's written by a lady who is a lace. Well, it is written on behalf of a lady who is a lace maker, and she seems quite accomplished, and I have no doubts in that. But the guy who writes it is not a lace maker. He doesn't live with a lace maker. He is just a programmer, and so as a result, I think some stuff gets lost in translation. And for example, if I make a new sheet, for example, new, blank one. There are other settings, so not all lace making works on a 45-degree grid. Now, I need to remember where they are. Guidelines? No, it's not the guidelines. I think it's this one. There we go. You probably can't see this, so don't worry about it. But if I now change this to 60... this, and make it a bit bigger because it's tiny, this is a grid for Bucks Point. And now you can see that it is more diamond shape than, and you effectively, if I get my dotty tool, hang on, so if I make my dots, but you can make hexagon shapes because it's made of 60 degrees. So there are advantages to a lot of this, and so obviously this has the ability to be hexagons, which is a glorious thing. But for example, if you then go to a motif, now admittedly these are torsion, if I pick this which is 3x3, it doesn't put the dots on the dots. Well, that's annoying. There are some Bucks motifs, and this is a similar kind of result, but I hear strange dog noises. As a dog owner, there are noises that you become suspicious of. Don't you, Amy? Funny they stopped now. So this is a Bucks Point one, and if I go grab some more to try and join them together, you'll notice that, well, they're not really lining up to the grid. It's a bit pants, isn't it? So this piece of software really does have some frustrations. You can buy more motifs. I have got more motifs. I have not sat them down and done it, because the only way to sit down and do it is you get sent basically like a saved file. So like this, if I wanted to do it to this, so like this little flowery thing we picked up earlier, I can save it as motif. Well, that's what you have to do to import them. You have to go in, and then if you save it as a motif, you have to pick where it goes, you have to pick what section it is, and you have to give it a name. To all of them. I bought 300 of them. I haven't been that bored yet. I mean, don't get me wrong, I quite like the idea of these little tallies in the thing, but I suck at making them. So I may have to make an experiment with some tallies in them to practice my talliness. I know the principle, and it's really not very hard, but I suck at it. Like lots of things in life, when you suck at something, you do automatically find it so much more difficult. So I am struggling quite a bit with the whole concept of picking a design. I really like that kind of Russian tape look where you make some squiggles, and then with the squiggles you make a tape and basically join the tape together with supporting structure. Hang on one moment. Sorry about that. Shouting at dog. What were you doing? I can hear you chomping your lips and doing things. There is no food for you, so what have you raided? What have you been eating? Yes. You might hear licking of lips. What have you been eating? No, you can't go all the way over there. What have you been eating? No, don't lick the microphone. What have you been eating, smelly face? I think I know what you've been eating. Get off. The door is open, is all I need to say to you. Just because it has rained, you go outside. No, you smell. You smell really quite badly. Back to Lace, because Lace doesn't smell. Unlike naughty dogs. So I quite like the idea of, if I show this screen again, I quite like this idea of this piece of lace, this kind of leafy looking structure with a bit of ground behind it. I would love that pattern. I would totally love to make that. However, as I said, it is harder than it sounds, for me at least. I mean, I have some graph paper. I could draw it with proper actual graph paper and then prick it onto a piece of paper, and I can do all of that. I mean, don't get me wrong, but as we can see from the bottom of the screen, I mean, this, there are varying options in here, and I quite like that, so I'm going to save that image actually. Yeah, downloads, they'll do. Right. This one, it's got a bit more flowery look to it, but it really is quite pleasant in that sense. Right, I was just checking, because obviously, but don't bark. See, this is Milanese, and this is what I was trying to find a picture of earlier, is that you make kind of a wiggle and the supporting structure. But I found the one that I did have, I ordered a Celtic cross. The Celtic cross I had didn't have enough supporting structure, so it was very, very flimsy. You can't make a lace curtain that's that flimsy. Actually, that's quite a nice picture. Oh, there you go. Add block that one. But this picture down here, this macrame. But of course, it's macrame. That's no freaking good to me. But principles, you can do things similar. But again, having a wiggly line with some supporting structure between it does have kind of a good let curtain vibe to it, because you can make quite an interesting pattern that's not just between these pins. I did this. You make an interesting thing that is very much organic on a piece of paper and add supporting structure to it. And as I say, there is a bit of me that really quite likes that idea. So obviously they put like little snowflakey shapes up in these kind of blobby bits, and then come down and made more blobby bits. I mean, I don't know what it's supposed to be. It's just a random squiggle, I guess. But oh, that's pretty. What's that one? See, that's quite nice. That's a neck curtain looking shaped thing. But you only ever see pictures of them. You never see patterns of them. But I do kind of like that. That's kind of, it's a bit flowery. I don't really do flowery. I'm a bit more Celtic knot. But there are many shapes and variations, and what counts and what doesn't count, and this is a bit more back to our blobby style thing. Got a lot less supporting structure in it, but it's kind of solid with supporting structure. This is very much a recognisable shape, and you could do quite well with that. It's all flowery. Unfortunately, with lace making, flowers do seem to be a common theme. I am less. Let's see if I can do Celtic. See if we can pull up anything a little bit more Celtic knot looking. No, not really. See, this is quite nice. Now, I had thought of this. This holds. also some potential. Because what you do is, for example, is you start on the right hand corner, go up to the top, down to the left, down a bit, up back to the top, down a bit, down to the right rather, then down a bit, up to the middle, and you make like this snake of squares. And then you could join them with thin bars of joininess, or a strip of something else. A single lengthy strip that you then use to connect to your squares. So this was quite a nice idea. I quite liked this kind of because you're making something almost the width of a bookmark and then joining it to its friends as you go. So you could almost make the net curtain in one go and do some form of tessellated joiny things. If you actually look at this seems to be made of 2 pieces. So, I don't know whether you can see my mouse cursor, but if you look at top right, obviously clearly there's an end on the most right hand corner. So it goes upwards, leftwards, downwards, upwards, rightwards, downwards, upwards, leftwards, downwards, and then round. Oh no, it's actually one piece. It's actually all one piece. I thought there was a break. My brain said there was a break because there's obviously an end in the middle. But that's not really a problem. I probably would have put a join in just to give it a bit more support in the corner. But something like that, because again you're making something the size of a bookmark. You then do a 90-degree turn and go and do a bit more bookmark, and you're only working with say 20 pairs of bobbins. And you make a bookmark that wiggles and has corners, but in essence, you are making quite a practical number of fewer bobbins, but making a greater whole that gets joined together. And so I really quite like these. So I'm going to save that one actually. Let me save that one. I really quite like that sort of thing that looks a bit like a square that's and in fact that seems to be dog's woken up. Here we go. There seems to be a potential book by Barbara Fay. I'm going to save that so I can see if I can find that as a book, because that would be quite good. But there you get to see the whole piece. So something like that really does seem quite ideal, because you wouldn't have to make them all the same. You could arguably rotate them to make a slightly more interesting effect, do different coloured ones. You could have strips of colour in it. You could do quite a lot with that. So that has a lot of potential for a lace curtainy style of outcome. And this is where some of my problem lies, of course, is the fact that I find myself struggling to make the decision as to whether or not I stick with this kind of more traditional style of lace with a ground and some patterns, which is more of what I'm used to, but at the same time I did a Celtic knot, and other than some of the fact that the Celtic knot had crossing over bits, and I didn't like how it advised me to do the crossing over bits, so where tape went under or over needed to go under or over itself to make the knot. The way they had it done was that you started a segment that was the base layer, and then obviously you could make a piece that went over it. But the next time those two met, well, they had to go the other way around. So you started a bit, started a different bit, got to a different crossing, maybe had to, at no point did you have more than two. The only good thing I will say is you never had more than two on the go, but you did like a bit of A, and then you did a bit of B, and then you had to do a bit of A, and then you had to do a bit of B, then you had to join A to the beginning of B, and then you'd make C, and it just made it really kind of fiddly. And I know that the joiny bits, well, you haven't got a lot of choice, but the description was you did not work the part that would be the back, so the side that's upwards to you as you make it. You just basically skip the threads over and continue the other side, which part of you would go, oh, that'd make it nice and quick. Well, it does, but the problem is you then start trying to work the tape portion again, and some of the joins were where it met, so where 4 multiple crossovers met. So now you're trying to join B to A, where A's on top of B and B's on top of A, and you've got to try and get down in the middle to dig out the original starting point, because digging out some of the points is not as simple as it sounds, and it just was overly fiddly. But the actual working of it went really quite quickly, was really quite easy, and the supporting structures were very lacking on this picture. In fact, maybe if I go back to my web browser, I can go find them if I make a new one of these. Overlays pattern, because I have found someone else had it. Images. I can't remember who had it. It was one German. Let's see if I can make it over. Bobbin. I can't type. It's pattern. So more like these. This is not it. Nor is this. It's on Etsy. Actually, might work Etsy.com, because it was on Etsy. Under and over. In fact, the easiest answer might be purchases. This one. No, it's not the one I did. I did number 3. This one. What's it called? Drunter and Druber. So I did this one, and as you can see from here, this looks all really neat and tidy. Well, one of the really key points from the pattern was that these little dainty pointy bits that serve no purpose whatsoever actually start on the previous point here, so don't line up. The pattern's wrong. Does not make this. Secondly, looking at all the unders and overs, so for example here, as you can imagine, it's a bit of a nightmare, but you start, let's say you start here, so you start here and you work this way and you go round, but then you have, so you go under this bit, so you get to here, then you have to start another bit, which is, say, here, or it might be here, and then it was complicated, but it didn't look like this at the end. It was close, but as you can see, there's not a lot of supporting structures. There isn't much to hold. There isn't anything really holding these bits to these bits. There's nothing really, there's literally one spot in each corner, and that's it. There isn't enough strength in this. There would need to be, bars in the middle, bars here to hold the strength. You need something, and even potentially filling in some of these holes with lace. It needed to be much more than this. So this was, because I had hopes for this, because I really like Celtic knots. I really, the actual Celtic knot portion, if done differently, I think I'd really like it. But trying to avoid the crossovers, and trying to make a structure around it to make it viable for a lace curtain. So originally I thought, well, because there's points, I could join point A to point B to point B. But really, one little dot, they would just twist and turn, and there needs to be whole loads more. So you'd have to have, more support structure coming off into the corners. It just needed to be a lot more. That and the pattern that they... Is that a different... No. Yeah, it's a different one. But the pattern that they give you, so don't buy from these people, is a really poor photocopy, and very disappointing. But the idea was nice. I quite like the idea of that. So yeah, some of these Russian lace things that they make. See here, that's got far more support structure to it. And while it's a hexagon, whatever, you could join it to other hexagons with some form of support structure in a similar, in a similar manner, and it could make quite a nice neck curtain. If that was like, say, the centerpiece, I don't know how big it is, but let's pretend that is the width of the window. All you're really doing is kind of filling in a bit of above and below. You're making a centerpiece of it. There are a lot of options with these things, and this is where my mind's struggling. I haven't finalised a good way to do that. I want to, I really do. I want to come up with something that my mind's really like, yeah, I want to make that now. But there are some really, people in history have made really large bobbin lace things. Don't get me wrong, there are some beautiful, I really doubt that's done with a piece of lace, but there are bedspread, there are tablecloths and so on. This is a bolster pillar, this thing here. This is very similar to mine. So mine's 70 centimetres round and 35 centimetres across. It sounds bigger than it is. But people do make bigger things, or they did in history, but we don't seem to do it now. We don't. This is like my favourite pillow. This is very similar to my favourite pillow. In fact, it's exactly the same design. So it's got the big rolly bit at the back, and then a big splay bit for the bobbins to come out. The one that's a bit naff is much more like this, but I haven't got the wooden wedgie block, so I need to get hold of a wooden wedgie block. It's not hard to get hold of a wooden wedgie block, but it is kind of the perfect size for it. But then this pillow's tiny, or my pillow's tiny, and it's the right size. As I say, the thing in the middle is 33 centimetres round, so would make a 99 centimetre thing, which gives you a lap over to make a roll for the top to hold the net curtain on. Yeah, I need to get a wooden thingy. I need to get a wooden doodad. I just... See, I know this is machine done, but... Or it's likely machine done. I look at it, you can usually tell. Yeah, I'd say it's machine done. But again, it's always flowers. Always pesky flowers. Stop making everything a flower. I don't want flowers. See, here's a good example of... Can you imagine looking at that for hours on end? That flower pattern as a background would get on your nerves, which is why usually dark plain. It can be green, maroon kind of colours, but usually they are dark plain so that your brain doesn't melt. I was going to show you some lace bobbins actually. So let me do some lace bobbins. So, lace bobbins come in hundreds of variants of styles. These ones are Midland ones, they generally have spangles. This is a good thing and a bad thing. So, being thin and pointy and long, you can get quite a lot on on somewhere, and the spangles, what you do is you can loop through the spangles and keep them all in order. This again, really useful. I've actually got about a couple of hundred of these, so I could do these. They don't all look like this one, but could arguably do something along those lines. But the ones I really like, and I saw a picture of them moments ago, and they have run away. Why is it whenever you see something on the internet and you want to show someone, you look back and now you can't find them? These ones. These are these ones. Perfect. These are the ones that I love. These are the ones that I've got. Yes, you can buy them. Latvia seems to have loads of them. Have you seen the price of buying them from Latvia? If I go back to Etsy, and I go back to my favourites, for example, no, I don't want to complete my account, thank you very much. I have favourited many because, well, keeping an eye on them. So, here's a set of 27. Bear in mind, if I was going to do the whole pillow, I was going to do the whole project in one go. Even 8 or so centimetres, we already worked out is 100 and something bobbins, right? So this is for 27 bobbins. £57.83. Do you want to know the worst part? If I add this to my basket, delivery, 20 quid on top of that, making it £80 for 27 bobbins. So, not too surprisingly, I haven't bought those. Because, well, I haven't bought them. Some of them have been sold, obviously. Now, I quite like the idea of these hooded bobbin ones. I really quite like the idea of those, but I haven't got any, so I'm not quite as obsessed with those. 10 wooden ones. Yeah. £8.97 for the thing. £10.51 to post them. What's to say I needed 100 of them, so it's 89, well, best part of 90 quid for that. Yeah, watch it. If I go to view it and I say, I don't know, maximum, I can have 8. So if I add 8 to my basket, so we already know. So, 75 quid-ish to buy it, bit of a discount, great. 60 quid. 60 quid, actual cost £165. So, delivery, £78. They don't need a first class ticket. They go in a box. I got a bag full of them. They go in a bag, and it's not even that big a bag. It's kind of the same size bag you get a McDonald's burger in. They go in there, and there's like 130 of them in there. So, how is it going to cost £78? I mean, is the Lord and Master of wherever these come from? I'm probably Latvia. Is the Lord and Master of wherever they're coming from delivering it personally? Do I get visitations and the person to use them? I mean, this is where I get a little bit sad sometimes, because perfect, great, they've got 80 of them, marvellous, I want them. Where is it sold from? Latvia. Latvia seems to have quite a few of them. But it is really disappointing when all the ones that I see come with really extortionate delivery prices. And, you know, ones where you can get multiples, it's not, you know, add £1 extra per part bit, depending, you know, up to a certain weight or anything. No. As you saw, basically 100 quid's worth to get it here. It's just not a thing. And I can't find someone who sells them brand new in the UK. Which is also a frustration. So, you know, there are quite a few for sale on as you can see, that I've dug out of the depths of Etsy. But I'm not paying, you know, even if you take it on flat value there, you know, that's 70 something pounds, nearly 80 quid for 27 bobbins, and it's a one-off, so you can't buy more. Anyway, who wants an odd number of bobbins? You only ever use them in pairs, so what the hell? Mind you, if you ever want to scare yourself, look at the price of bobbins on eBay. Bobbins on eBay. Some of the prices of bobbins. Single bobbins. Bear in mind, these are all single. These are actually quite reasonable. I say quite reasonable. Okay, pair, 5. But wooden lace bobbin. That's the best part of £4, I'm in, for one singular bobbin. Well, if I'm talking of needing 100 plus, I am not spending 400 quid on bobbins. Now, admittedly, I don't need to. I've already got a bulk load of most bobbins. I think I've got 3 types of bobbins. So I've got 4 types of bobbins. 3 or 4, lost count. But I've got the ones I really like. I've got the Midland ones. I've got some Danish ones. She says, trying to remember where we were at. I thought I had searchy on lace bobbins. That's something else. I think it was the beginning of this sheet. Oh well. But if I do Danish lace bobbin. These are Danish ones. Of course, you can't click on that. I can't click on anything that's kind of got an advert on it. So these are the Danish ones. I've got some of those. I've got quite a few of those. I've got another kind that are basically straight at the bottom. I quite like those. I really do. I got enough to do in those. But it would depend on which pillow. Whereas, and this is the other thing: is some bobbins work better on some pillows, or in some on how you work. It's like any tool. You have to find the tools that work well with you. And think of screwdrivers, drills. People have preferences to manufacturers. People have handle grips they like, handle grips they hate. And because you hold bobbins or you pick bobbins up constantly, if I go back to my Etsy thing, these look beautiful. Look at them. They're rustic. They've got carved tops on them. They look really uncomfortable, but they're glorious to look at. Don't get me wrong, glorious to look at. But I don't want to buy things to look at them. I generally don't buy things to look at. I buy things to use, things that I want. That's right, I was just looking at these sheer curtains, actually. They're awfully thin. Don't suppose it tells you how big they are, does it? Learn more about this. 55 centimetre long and a width of 12 centimetres. So I'd basically need like 3 and a bit. That's. I'm sorry, 12 centimetres isn't really much of a curtain. It's more of a glorified bookmark. Yeah. You'd have to join them together. But again, that shows the kind of thing you could make, if you think of making, say, 3 strips out of it, you could make 3 strips with the kind of bits and 1 strip in the middle and make a, alternating or a different panel, kind of give it a stained glass look. If you look at this, it's got quite solid edges to join to and all the rest of it. So from that point of view, you could do quite a lot, and not really a fan of these particularly, but that's fine. It's not mine, I don't need to be. But I do kind of like how it is. The grid looks a little bit weird because usually you work on diagonals, but the whole part of this, it is a pretty piece. And you could join those at these thick edges, which is kind of what I was thinking, is having some thickish edges that you join together, so that if you joined two on top of each other, even if they became kind of slightly, one was forward, one was back, one was forward, one was back, so you zigzagged across, to make this flat window piece, it wouldn't be that thick, so it's not that bad. But it would give me something quite easy to sew with a sewing machine, perhaps, rather than hand sewing meters of stuff together, which was where the experiment kind of was beginning to fall apart. I was thinking about how I was going to demonstrate sewing them together, and then my brain kind of went, they're really, really flimsy. If you try to do it with them pinned down so that they didn't move, you can't really get round the threads because, well, they're pinned down. If you try and do it in your hand, it's like trying to work with smoke. It has no weight and substance to it, and so that would be really difficult. And so although I do think that joining yesterday's experiment would be a bit easier, because you could arguably do something possibly even with a sewing machine to run down the straight line and do a bit of a zigzaggy style to it, I do think that, and I do like the look to the edges of it. In fact, I really, really do quite like the edges. Even though I made a bit of a blunder at the start, I do like how they turned out. I felt that was quite a successful experiment. So I don't know. I think we have a lot of decisions to make here. And then I will need to potentially check out how they look in reality, so I would have to make some samples. The problem is like I said earlier, samples put the fear of God up most crafting people, because, well, if you make it a small sample, it's not really much of a representation. If you make it most of a whole one, well, if you hate it, it's a lot of waste product. If you only do a really small section, it's like painting a 2-inch square on your wall and deciding whether you like the colour or not. Hot pink or electric blue or violet or whatever can be really glorious colours, but maybe not once you've painted your whole room in them. I think this has always been a problem for me, is there are many colours I like. Now, I'm not a pink fan, but the right pink and the right purple are a pair of glorious colours in really small pieces. I would never paint my house that colour. God, I couldn't even do an accent wall in that colour. It'd be too much. I mean, I'm sitting in a room. I moved into this house 5 years ago now, and I'm sitting on the couch that was in the house when it was shown, because it belongs to the previous occupants, because my couch was broken. And when I kind of went, so what's happening is there any chance of making offers on the furniture? Because, I could, I really quite like the look of the furniture in here. And they kind of went, oh yes, you can make an offer. And she actually went, you can have it for free. And I said, well, because they said, well, what would you be interested in? I said, well, frankly, pretty much everything that's in the sitting room. I quite like the bookshelves that are in the study, because I do have a room that used to be my computer room, but it doesn't let me watch TV, although I don't watch TV anymore, but that's not the point. It doesn't, it was quite a small table. It's quite a small room, really small room, like a 1 metre long table, and then there's a doorway, and that's it. There is no more room. And it's right next to a window, right next to where everyone can stare at you, which made me feel really self-conscious on the computer. Not that I'm looking at anything bad on the computer, but it also made me think that someone could easily sneak up on me and watch what I'm doing. I could be working, I could be, and I work in an environment where that would be really bad. So sneaking up on me was not a thing. And so I moved into my sitting room so that the dogs could take up residence as they are right now. One is next to me, one is behind me. This tends to keep them more placid than when I'm sitting at a chair, because then they want up on the chair. Then they're climbing all over me and getting jealous because there's only really room for one. And and I end up with constant dog whining, pawing, mauling, and it was just not a thing. So if I can sit on my couch, they can sit with me. I can give them a bit of fuss. I can, pick up the cushions, because one of them's really bad with my cushions. In fact, where are my cushions? What have you done with my cushions? She's off again. She's a grumble guts. So it is. I'm sitting in a room, but all the rooms are painted probably magnolia. I'm not a magnolia expert, but in a kind of pale, yellowy, creamy, nondescript colour. The ceilings are all white. The carpet is the most stupid coloured carpet in the history of carpet. Might as well be white, frankly. It is very similar to the wall colour, which means, well, basically it looks like I went digging in the garden and trunched through a house, because it is the palest pale carpet, and it marks terribly. In fact, by my feet, even though I don't go out, I don't wear these shoes out, is a black patch from walking around my house, and the dirt has ground into the carpet no matter how much I hoovered and cleaned it, and I've used Vax cleaners and everything on it. It is black. It is absolutely terrible. And so I find myself hating the carpet, but there's nothing wrong with it other than it really looks like a swamp. So, but everything in this house is quite pale and plain. The curtains do have flowers on them. Technically, so does the couch and chairs, but they're a bit more subtle. And so when I offered her, and I said, well, basically, can I have the chairs, the TV table, the kind of chest, the chest of drawers thing, the coffee table, basically everything that's in the sitting room, and this, and she went. And I said, if you want to leave the beds, if I don't want them, I'll donate them to charity. So she left the house as it was, which meant she didn't have to clean it out, so she was quite grateful. And it meant that I could literally move in and sit down. I did not have to move a great pile of my belongings in. I could just come in, sit down, and take up residence. And it was a good thing, because, well, my old house is still full of crap. But it means that I now have some real furniture that I really, really like. This furniture is wooden, and my dad was a wood guy, and I've always been into wood, but, well, I almost have PTSD. Seriously. Anyone who met my father and his couch and chairs understands. Now, most of the people who met my dad's couch and chairs would assure you they were not built for comfort. If you think of dining room chairs, they're like H-shaped from the side. They have a profile of an H. They've got an upright back and then a flat seat and four legs. Basically, that's how he built his chairs and couch. He then got 4-inch foam or whatever and put them on it so you weren't sitting on raw wood. No, that was it. The arms were made of like 1/2-inch thin spindles, so that if you used the arm of the chair to get up, you would break some. We broke some. We all broke. I think all three of us broke one at one point. If you couldn't lie down on the couch because it was only 2 seats, so it was too small. And having multiple dog and person, there wasn't really enough room. It just was the most god-unforsaken comfortable thing. Oh, hi, thanks, Elizabeth. I'm so glad you stopped by. Thank you for coming. I've been a bit rambly, I know, because I am kind of talking to me, myself, and I a lot. But I'm so glad you came. Thank you very much. And I hope I see you again. The couch and the chairs were distinctly uncomfortable, but these ones really are nice. They're pretty. They've got carved wooden ends. They're not squared with slightly decorated spindles. They're more chunky. They're the uprights to the legs and the arms are still turned wood, but they're like 3 inches wide. They're chunky. The arms aren't kind of squared. My dad's were kind of squoval in that they were rectangular with marginally rounded corners so that it wasn't sharp. These, well, other than they've got carved bits on them, these are gloriously round. They're like arms. Literally, it's like if you made a fist with your hand, that's the shape of the arm of the chair. It's got a kind of it's fairly straight, but at the end it's got like a twirled bit on it where your fist would be, like your fingers turning around. And so they're beautiful, they're shiny. I've had to repair them a little bit, but they're made out of wood. You can repair them. And so they've got, on the top, instead of just having a flat back, it's kind of got wings that stick out slightly forward, and they're kind of curved and half a heart shape. And well, they split, so I glued them back together. Some of the arms lifted up off their prongs. Some of the legs are a little bit. They've got like fancy decorative bits that can fall off because the glue's dried out and it wasn't properly glued on. But I have a table that suffered the same with its feet. Half the foot fell off, so I glued it back together. In fact, it's still, and has been for about 3 years, sitting on its side in front of me because I haven't decided where I'm putting it yet. But all these things came with a house, and they're glorious things. And a good friend of mine called Petey, he came to visit my house not long after I moved in, and he actually said to me, "Your old man would be proud of this house." And that's what I hoped when I bought it, because my old house was a modern house, as is this, but it really had that Lego feel to it. It was a box. It felt cheap. It wasn't cheap, but it felt cheap. Half the downstairs was a garage, so it was dark. You always had to have lights on. Here, this house, if you wanted to walk through the front door of my old house, the lights had to be on, because there was no natural light that got in that hallway except for about 10 minutes in the morning when the sun was just so. Literally, even with the front door open, the light was behind something. It was behind another house, it was behind. Whereas here, it's got windows on all sides. The hallway is, well, frankly, like a stadium. It's got windows upstairs that bring light from upstairs to down. Hasn't directly got real windows, but either side of the front door there are mottled window panes, so there's light coming in from that. Only annoying factor, the telephone socket does not have a mains plug near it. So when you want to plug your router in, there's nowhere to plug it. So rather hick-like, I'm a bit redneck style. I've got a gangway that goes, a four-way socket that the cable, I run the cable up the wall, over the light socket, because I've got a hangy light thing under, so it's secured through the light socket, goes over the light and is nailed to the stairs the other side. And I've done the reverse with the Ethernet cable coming from my router, so I can have a network in my house. So the house could be with a lot tidier, and this is my plan for the weekend. So when I sign off in a few minutes, I will endeavour to go and achieve some tidying. Looking at the pile of crap next to me, that's kind of yeah. Children have like toy cars bigger or smaller than this pile of stuff I need to sort. So clearly my work is cut out for me. As I said, it's not my proudest moment, but I've got it's mainly made of Amazon boxes and Amazon packaging, and I just need to sort it out really. So we are in a situation where we have some plans. But I do need to sit down and sort out exactly how I want to make my strips, because strips is how I'm going to do it. And these strips on screen at the moment, I do think are a really valid way to do that. they have a lot of potential. So it's almost like strips within a strip. And if you think there are 3 strips there, well, and that's what, 12 centimetres, so they're 4 centimetres wide. I could do something very similar, making strips that you join together and alternate them to make different patterns. And I think that could be a good way of breaking up my monotony of making it, because obviously making a metre of it, give or take a couple of centimetres, making a metre of it, and then making another metre of it, and then making another metre of it, because obviously I want to make decent tops and bottoms on it, so I would make a metre of it, stop, make a metre of it, stop. It could get really quite frustrating, whereas if you have a number of panels, whether it's just alternating panels, or you have 3 different types, 4 different types, it would break that up, because you, instead of doing, say you need 12 panels. I know we don't need 12 panels, but 4 centimetres wide, it's close, right? So let's say you need 10 panels. Well, if I did, let's say I made them big enough so I only needed 9, because 9 works out to be blocks of 3, right? I could do one kind of block of 3, a different kind of block of 3, the original block of 3, but because each of the 3 strips inside those blocks of 3 are different, I would have 4 of the the 2 outside parts of the first and last panel, and 2 of that, and 2 of the middle, and 1 of the actual middle strip. But it would mean that you could almost do them in order. So by the time you do like block 1, strip 1, strip 2, strip 1 again. But then you do strip 3, strip 4, strip 3. Then you do strip 1 again. So it's been quite a while since you did strip 1. And I think doing it right and having the right size strips is quite important. So at 43 centimetres wide, it's not very wide. So I would need to calculate how to not make them too thin, otherwise they just look tacky. But I do think that so maybe 6, so that could be awkward, but we could see. So you could have like 3, 2, 1 bigger one, 2, 3, maybe. Do something along those lines, so that there are options, and then I need to work out which pillow I'm going to use and how I'm going to support that pillow on my table, because I really quite like my nice roller pillow for it. I apologise for dog, and or using my bolster pillow. Apparently the world needs barking at. Rory, that's enough. It's unusual for him to bark at things, actually. Although he is a go out in the garden and tell the world to shut up kind of guy. Usually, most of the noise comes from the small, annoying sister variety of dog, who likes to tell everyone everything. And you don't like people in your road, do you? No. For me working! Thank you. So yes, I think we have lots of decisions to make and ideas, and the problem is that, like all things, like I was saying about the colour, you can have great colours and you do a really small tester spot of, 4 or 5 inches or something. It looks great. But if you painted the whole room in that, it would look awful. And the same's true with stitches. Some stitches are glorious, but if you had a whole window full of them, would it be so glorious? Because there is a scarf made purely of spiders. As I said, I don't overly like spiders. But it's quite simple, quite predictable. Lots of people have made it. And I'm not saying it looks horrible. It doesn't look horrible. I'm just not a fan of spiders. I don't want particularly to have spiders in my work. Now, there are ways of joining spiders that produce different effects. And some of them look quite good. Some of them don't. Let's see if I can find one. Why do I do that? Nice. Bookmark. Why is it capitals? Bookmark. Spider. There we go. This one will do. So here's a kind of diamondy looking spider. Here's a more normal looking spider. Here are 4 spiders put together that makes it kind of look like it's pulling apart. Now, they don't look as bad to me, but I just find that they like that. And again, no offence to the creator of this bookmark, it's a mighty fine bookmark. They bothered, I haven't, so it is a glorious bookmark. I don't like how the spiders work out. They have this... They don't look right to me. They have... If you think back to even my piece, we'll look back at my piece here. The spiders in the middle, the spiders at the edges. The spiders in the middle are better. This is a bit dubious, but they are better, right? But to me, there's too much variance. It's too easy for them to look slightly different, for them to look slightly wrong. Now, part of this was because each of the spiders, again, has a stitch between them, rather than being consecutive. So, much like the honeycomb portions that are on this, there's a stitch between them, and wasn't if you think back to our experiment. And I prefer the look of our experiment. So maybe the spiders would look less crappy because they would then have the... So if I show you, right, you look at these spiders that you can see now. The spiders you see now have... There's 2 spiders at the top, one sort of, spider at the bottom, and then like 2 spiders in the middle where the spiders have been allowed to work together, and they're little blocks of 4 spiders. If I show you my piece, because there was a stitch between them, each of the spiders have remained individual spiders. And the same with the honeycomb. They are individual holes, not a net of holes, if you know what I mean. It's a bit like going at it with the hole punch. They're not a net, they're holes. Now, there's nothing wrong with holes, especially if you maybe made a row of them and put some ribbon through them. Not that I'm a ribbony person, but, you know, for the edging of something, you could put a coloured ribbon through and it would look quite pretty, and you'd use the holes to go in and out, and it could be nice. It really could. But the piece that we made yesterday, I prefer how those honeycomb works. So I would need to do some more swatches, but I would probably need to do a big swatch. So I have some work to do. I have my work cut out for me, and a lot more planning. And although this was a spontaneous stream, we've been here for 2 hours. We have talked a lot about things and ideas and the stuff in my head, and hopefully it gives you an idea of why this is not going to be as straightforward as originally my brain hoped it would be. But it's not that it's hard, it's the question of making the decisions. So I'm going to leave that with you, and let me know what you thought. Let me know what you think of the ideas, the plans. You can find me on Threads and Instagram, as linked in my about on Twitch here. Let me know what you think I could do, what your views, what you think you'd like if it was you. I'd love to hear from you. See you again soon. Bye.